All right. Then let me share my screen. All right, cool. Let's go to CodePen. So let's everyone go to CodePen. Always code with me. And if you think that I'm moving too fast, just let me know so I can slow down. If you're not finished something with something, right? Always stop me because I, sometimes I'm really too fast. So I try to tell myself, to slow down usually. Okay, so let's just revisit what we did last time, right? So what we learn is first we learn if statement, right? So if and else statements are nothing but helping make your decision, right? So if it's raining, I'm just going to write a pseudocode. Pseudocode is basically just to explain things. This code doesn't work, right? Because there is no raining variable. But let's say if it's raining, then take the umbrella, right? Else, don't take the umbrella, right? So this is an if statement. So we are making a decision based on whether it's raining or not. Okay, it's a simple thing. We make this kind of decision in life often, right? Another option is, life is never like black and white, right? There are more to life than just making black and white choices. One example we looked at last time was, let's say if you have money, let's say if you have money to buy a game, right? So let's say if you have only $50, but the game is $200, right? Which means you don't have enough money to buy the game. So in that case, you can say if the money that I have is let's say greater than equal to the price, right? Because I may have more than the price. I may have $201 or $200 or $1 million, right? All of these cases I can buy the game. So I can buy the game, right? Let's say if I don't have enough money, then I can also ask my mom. So there's another if, right? One option is not true, which means I can say if what mom gave plus the money that I have, is that greater than equal to the price? If that is true, then buy the game, right? And similarly, I can also ask dad and mom. And ultimately, if I can't collect enough money, then I'm going to cry, right? That's like a fallback, which means if none of this is true, because we always want our code to go in one of these blocks, right? So else basically say all other conditions. Okay. So that's pretty straightforward. And any question on this one? So I'm just gonna quickly repeat this so those who were not here, they get a chance to look at it. Okay. All right. Let's look at the for loop that we went through. So for loop, anything that we want to repeat over and over, we want to make some sort of a graph of what we want to do. Let's say I want to repeat from 2 to, let's say, 7, right? Which means I want to print 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, right? these are the numbers I want to print. So what am I going to do? I know what my starting point is, which is 2. It starts at 2, right? Ends at 7, right? And increments by 1 every time, right? Because I'm going 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to, and you can increment by multiple. You can go 2 to 4 or 4 to 6, like that, right? But we are just doing 1 increment at a time. You can also decrement it by, if you do -1, then it goes down, right? But in this case, we are incrementing because we are starting from 2 and then going 7, which means we are going in a positive direction, right? Because we are starting here and we are going to the right side. Right side is positive. If you were going on the other side, it would be negative, right? So the way we want to state our for loop is always start with let I equal to whatever the start is, right? Which is in this case 2. Then we want to consider end. So how do we consider end? So what is my validity for this for loop? Validity of for loop is as long as my numbers are less than 7, right? Because 7 is here, and then all the other numbers that I want to produce is on a left side, right? So in a way, left is, you can say less than, right? This is less than, this is greater than. So I would say I is less than equal to 7, because we want to include 7 as well, right? So it's clear that I should be less than equal to 7. So less than covers all the numbers, right? And then the increment is I plus plus. I equal to I plus 1, right? Which means we are doing ones. And if you do this, and if I console log I, that would print all the numbers from 2 to 7. Okay. Let's look at a negative example, right? So let's say if you want to print, I'm just going to keep this here as well. And we're going to look at another example. Let's say you want to print from -5 to -10, right? Now, let's really, what are we starting? So this means we are drawing what? So in this case, what I'm going to do is always keep the lower number on the left side and a higher number on the right side, right? Which means I'm going to write like this. So we want to produce 10 -9 -8 -7 -6 -5, right? What is my starting here? So I'm starting obviously from, because we say -5 to -10, right? So we're starting at -5. Where are we ending? We already know where we're ending, right? We are ending at -10. What is the increment? It's not incrementing, it's decrementing, right? Because we are adding -1 every time, right? Because we are going to left side, which means it's an increment in a way, but increment of a -1, right? Which it's a decrement. So let's write this for loop. So for let I equal to -5, right? So our start is 5. Then now, if I'm here, right? And I'm going that side, which means it has to be less than, my 10 is here, right? So which means I cannot go lower than minus 10, right? So which means I have to be greater than, I is greater than minus 10. See, this is greater than equal to. You see it makes sense, right? I'm checking my end, right? So it means sorry, minus 10 this is, which means I have to check, can I go lower than minus 10? No, which means I have to go higher than minus 10, right? So that's why it says I is greater than minus 10, right? Which is true. There are no numbers that are lower than minus 10, right? So by looking at it, you would know. So you can try it, say greater than, which one makes sense, right? And then I equal to I minus 1. Okay, so this is, if you know this technique, you can just pretty much do anything, right? These two basically cover all the cases. And then if you want to, like, if there are numbers you want to skip and stuff like that, you can just use your increment to, you know, change, right, by a specific number. Okay, any question on this one? All right, cool. So let's look at the next thing, which is a different kind of for loop, right? Let's say if we have an array, let numbers equal to, let's say I have a bunch of numbers, right? And then what I wanted to do is I wanted to print these numbers, right? One way to do it is I can just use my regular for loop. And then the for loop is anytime you have an array, what is my starting point? Because arrays always have indexes, right? And my index of the first element is 0, right? Don't look at the values here, because it could be anything. It could be, you know, a paper, pencil, whatever, right? So don't look at these values. Look at the index. So index of the first element is 0. Index of the second element is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? Like that. What is my end then? Anyone know what my end would be here?
6 or 8.
So it will be an index, right? So if you think of an index, I want to go up to the last index. So this is the index of this. This is the index of this. 6 is the last. Okay. 6 is the last index. But how do I know they have 6 numbers? Right? There's an array. So if I get the length of the array, so the way to do it is nums dot length. If I get the length, if I get the length of the array, in this case, what is this? Length of the array is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? So it's a 7 and then minus 1, because we are starting from 0, right? So the this last should be always 1 less than the length, right? So in this case, it means 6. Make sure that you're clear on this one, right? Let's say if you have a bunch of people standing in line. If you give the first person a number 0, right? And then let's say if you have 2 people standing in line, so the first person will be 0, and then the second person would be 1, right? How many people I have in line? 2 people, but the last person is still 1, not 2, right? Because we are starting from 0. That's why the last person's index is always going to be 1 less than the length. right? If I was starting from 1, like here, I would have the 7, right? But since I'm starting from 0, it's going to be always 1 less than the length, right? So length minus 1, that is. So let's write this. So for let I equal to 0, I less than equal to this guy, right? Length minus 1, and then I equal to I plus 1. Okay. So this is a standard for any array you have. You can just blindly write this. It's always true. Okay. Let me clear this. And then so now what I get, so if I do console log.log I, our objective is not to get the I, right? So if I do I, I'm getting all the indexes 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, which is correct. But I'm not looking for indexes. I want to actually print the value inside. So what I'm going to do is I can pass the nums, and then remember, if I want to get the value at a given index, I have to pass the index, right? If I did this, it would give me 1 to 7, right? Actually, let's take a different example just to see if this formula would work for any array, right? So let's say if I have a pencil, pen, they are strings, phone, and water. Okay. If I did this, I would always, it doesn't matter what I do, this formula lets me print all the items in the array, as you can see. So this is pretty neat. But there's a better way to do this. But, you know, if you prefer this, yeah, it works like a charm. Everyone try this out till I'm gonna get my coffee warm in a minute. I'll be back. All right. One of the things you guys want to do is you want to keep a note and then just dump everything that you write here, the working example, into that if you're not saving these examples here, right? Because you want to put some note in it saying, hey, this is what it is, right? So next time when you look at it, you know what's going on. All right. A different way to deal with this is, which is a little bit better, is I already know that I'm looking through the elements of the array. And right? I don't really need to do find the index and all that stuff, right? So JavaScript has a much better example. There's a different kind of for loop, okay, where you can say let item of, let's not call it nums, let's call them items. Okay, item of items. What does it mean? Which means I am defining every single item as item. So I can say if I have a bunch of bananas, right? I would say banana of bananas, which means individual banana, right? So I'm looping through each banana in a way, right? Picking out each banana one by one. Same thing, item is basically individual item in this thing, right? So all I have to do is console log item. And it does exactly the same thing. This is much simpler syntax. It says, give me every single item because I'm inside the for loop. So I don't really need to do any of these shenanigans, right? So this is much simpler. Okay, so this is pretty cool syntax. It lets you, iterate through any array. Yeah, doesn't matter which array it is, you can apply this everywhere. All right, let's look at a different for loop. Let's try this out first, everyone. So I want you to go and practice, create your own array of any items, and then see if it works. If you keep practicing like this regularly, your brain is gonna get trained, like just like typing, right? When you type, you don't think about whether you're pressing A or B or C, right? You just type whatever comes in your head, you just type, right? And it works. Similarly, if you practice coding, it's almost like typing. Nowadays, when I write code, I don't think, it just comes naturally. I don't even have to prepare for my classes, right? Because this is so natural to me that it just flows through. When I write different languages, I teach different languages. I teach Python. I teach some other languages, and so when I teach those languages, the syntax is very different. It's very similar but different, right? So when I do that, sometimes I have to kind of stop and think. So what I do, I prepare like some notes on site and then look at it. Because otherwise what I'll do is I would write JavaScript in a different language, which is probably not gonna work. So the trick to learning programming is practice. That's the only trick. If you practice enough, you reach a point where you can code in your sleep, right? Then you can get any job any programming job, right? And make tons of money. Because once it becomes easy, right? And also remember, if you do any other jobs, right? I'm just comparing something simple. Let's say if you're a cashier, then you have to, whatever, work on the till, right? A cash machine. And sometimes it requires a lot of hours, and then it requires some mundane work, right? And a lot of people, it may be physically, not that exhausting, but it requires some, a lot of work. And if you don't like something, if you try to do that, then it becomes very difficult, right? That's why a lot of people hate their jobs, because there's something they don't like about it, right? But programming is very different. Programming is you creating something new every time, right? So you're not going to do some same thing over and over. So what happens is, yeah, you're writing in the same language, but you're writing something different. Somebody would give you to build some website. You can use JavaScript to do it, but every time it's a different, different colors, different things, different customer. So if you master it, right, you can make a lot of money, and also you can enjoy it. The only drawback I see in programming is you sit too much, and your back can suffer at the end of the day, right? Because all day you just sit. And so, but there are some remedies, like, I never sit at one place for a long time. I just type something and I move away, take a coffee break, or maybe go for a walk, come back and do some more work, right? So you're active, and also you are keeping things interesting, right? And then you can probably make 10 to 15 times more money than the other jobs. So you have to, you can take vacation in between. Right. Okay, so enough motivation talk. I always motivate my students, right? Because I want you to use this and go out and do something. Another example would be last semester I'm teaching at a UCSC extension, and there was a student. He came from Japan, and he said he has done some programming in Japan, and he enrolled in the program at UCSC extension. And that was his last class, the one I taught. And he said, I kind of got this, but I don't have a job. I don't know what I'm gonna do and all that stuff. So I showed him some tricks on how to apply for jobs and things like that. What he had heard, that it's very difficult to get in this business. He said, I don't have experience. I just learned this. Who's gonna hire me? Because I don't know much. So I said, let them figure out. Let whoever's hiring you figure out what they need to do. What you need to do is present yourself in the best way possible, which is, I mean, never say I don't know this stuff. You just say, I'm very enthusiastic. I'm a hard worker. I know this stuff in and out. And if you give me a chance, I can learn, right? And I helped him build his resume. I think within 3 weeks, he got a job. And then he pinged me on the LinkedIn saying that thanks for the motivation. I got the job, and I think he got it. He got an internship first, which is the right way to do, right? And then after 3 months, he got a permanent job with the same company. Because with the way internship works is you go there, you learn some stuff, and there's a fixed time, right? Like 2-3 months. And then if they don't like you, they'll say bye. If they like you, then they'll say, okay, we want to hire you permanently. So that's what happened to him. he was hired permanently. And so he pinged me again on LinkedIn saying, thanks again. I get a full-time job. I'm really happy. I thought this was not possible because, Silicon Valley is full of a lot of engineers, right? But you just have to differentiate yourself and then believe in yourself. Right? All right. So let's look at objects. And now things are going to get a little bit more interesting now that you know how to create objects, how to create arrays, how to iterate through them, how to make decisions, right? We're gonna take all of this and then make something out of it. Then you're gonna start seeing the real application of all of these that you like, right? So the next thing we're gonna do is look at objects. So let items equal to, remember, objects have curly brackets, not a square bracket, right? And objects have key and value pair. So I can say pen 2, milk 5, cup 7, 6, and glasses 100. Okay. So this is my object. And remember, I told you about objects. Objects don't have indexes. Their index is actually the key in a way, right? If I want to grab this values, I would remember, I need to know the index. So I can say, give me how many milk I have, and I can say 5. How many pens I have, I can say 2, right? So if I want to get pen, I can say console log items, and then I'll pass pen. Remember, always pass string. Even though here you don't need to say string, and it's kind of funky. You don't really need to put quotes around these. It's expected that like that. You could put however, and it would still work, but you don't need to here. But here you have to pass because you're passing an argument as a string, right? So it gives you 2 here, right? Which is correct. So now the question is, I want to get all the items from this object one by one. How do I do that? So what I would do is, if I can get all the keys, which is pen, milk, cup, and indexes, then I know I can pass a key inside the items to get the value, right? So there's a for loop for it. Remember, the other one was for off. This is called for in. So that is the difference. So I can say item in items. Or I would say, instead of item, I would say key in items here, right? Which makes more sense because this is a key, actually. So I'm getting key, not the whole item, right? So if I just simply console log the key, I would get all the keys: pen, milk, cup, glasses. So the difference here from the other array is the arrays, you have to say items of item of items. So you use off. Here you use in. So remember, objects you use in, arrays you use off. Okay. Now, how do I get the values? I have the keys. If I want to get the values, then I would simply use items and then pass key inside, right? And it gives me all the values, 2, 5, 600. So I can print keys, only keys, and I can also print items. Or if I want to just combine them, then I can, the trick is this way. This would actually gives me both at the same time, right? Which is neat. Let's try this. Pretty soon we're going to make things interesting. If you think this is easy, let's make things interesting, right? I'm not saying that it's going to be difficult. It is interesting. If you understand the fundamentals, if you look at things with that lens that I can learn this, you're gonna really enjoy this. But if you look at with the lens as programming is impossible for me, I'm not cut out for that, then you're making yourself you're blocking yourself. Any questions? All right. Let's move to something more interesting, as I said. So the next topic is mixing my items, or sorry, not items, my objects and arrays. In life, things, I cannot define things as objects or arrays, right? When I say arrays means just simple values, list of values. Objects is a key and a value, right? So like when men write the grocery list, they'll just say pen, milk, glasses, broccoli, whatever, right? Then when they go there, they kind of decide, oh, I need a, but when women write, they have more detailed things. I want this much milk, I want this much, so arrays are like simple list, objects are detailed list in a way, right? But you can actually combine them. So for example, let's say if you have a grocery list and inside you have, let's say, box of eggs, right? And then inside you have 12 eggs. So that's an array, right? Or it could be something else, something where, some item with things in it, right? So you can have object and arrays inside and vice versa. Okay. So let's take an interesting example. Like when you go on Facebook, you create or Instagram, whatever platform you are on it, you most likely you have a profile, right? And this is how they also save your information. So let's say you have a profile, right? And profile is usually starts with an object, right? Now it's all going to make sense to you. You'll be like, oh yeah, this completely makes sense. This is how you use it, right? Profile, give me some of the things that you have in profile.
Like your name
Yep.
and your picture and bio or whatever details.
Yep. So you have a name, right? So let's say name is John. Okay. So I have an object with this. I can have a picture, right? Or a profile picture or picture, whatever. Let's call it profile picture. Right? And then profile picture, it's probably, let's say, some sort of URL, right? Where this picture is located. But let's say it's my picture.jpg or something, right? Okay. What else can it be there?
Bio.
Yeah, bio, which means you can have like age, right? So let's say 25 years old. Let's make him a little bit older, 55. Relationship status, right? Number of likes. So let's have account, when account was started, right? Start date, right? So let's say when this account was started, it was, let's say, January of 2008. I guess that's when I think a lot of people started Facebook account, right? You can have a birth date, right? So this person, based on the age, will be most probably, I don't know the exact date, but let's just I would say 67, something like that. Okay. Yeah, 67, right? That makes it 55. Okay. You can have friends, right? Number of friends. So for friends, you cannot have single item, right? Because you can have many friends. So you can see the trick is name is a single item, profile picture is a single item, start date, single item, birth date is a single item. Friends is plural, which means I have to have an array, right? So in the array, what am I going to have? I'm going to have another object, right? And this object is going to have a name. I mean, you can have something like this. You can have Peter, Kyle, Jennifer, Martha, whatever, right? These are his friends. But usually the way Facebook does, or pretty much any social media does, is they don't simply put the friends list like this. They will put, either they'll put a reference of a friend where it's, like an ID, right? Or they will have a whole profile inside, right? So let's look at, you can do either way, right? Because what happens, you have a profile, and your profile, you have a friend list, right? So you have a pictures of your friends, and then inside you have a name and picture or something like that, right? So let's assume that, you know, you want to build Facebook, you need a name of your friend at least and a picture, right? So each of these friends gonna have pretty much similar thing, right? So they'll have, let's say, you know, name, call Peter, right? Comma, it's gonna have age, let's say 45. Okay. And then you know, profile picture, say Peter Pitt .jpg or something like that, right? Let's copy paste this and let's make it 2 friends so it's not too cluttered. Just think about this. Each of this is a friend, and I'm just putting comma because it's within the array. It's almost like I've replaced the name with the objects, right? Let's say, so this is Martha. She is 40 years old. Martha. And if you just format this, it makes it nice and clean, right? Let's add another friend called Jennifer. She is a younger crowd. Okay. So now I have an object, a profile object, which has a key called friends, and the value is an array. And that array has each item as object. This is a natural way of representing information, right? As you can see. Now, Peter can also have friends. We don't want to go that deep, right? And it's kind of a it'll keep going. Peter will have other friends, and then those friends will have other friends, and so on and so forth, right? Make sense? Any question on this one? Let's write this profile, and you can add some of your favorite fields in there as well, you know, to make it more interesting. And if it gets too cluttered, go inside, go here, and then just say, you know, format the JavaScript, and it will nicely format it for you. You can also have a list of comments here. An example would be comments, right? The comments this person has made. And because it's a plural, you can see it's a plural, which means I'm going to have an array, right? It's not a single comment. And then each comment, you can have actual message or comment, right? I love sushi. And then there may be some data associated with it, right? Because whenever they post it, let's say it's 10/4/2022, right? And you can have another comment. Let's say put a comma here. My cat is cute. Don't forget the comma, otherwise it will create problems.
So I also have a question.
Sure.
So the within, okay, so the like profile items that are there, like name, profile picture and stuff, those are all objects, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the
The name.
arrays have objects inside them also. Is that what that is?
Yeah, hold on just a second. Yeah, I forgot to put this is supposed to be strings. That's why it was kind of giving errors, but yeah.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, that was one issue. Yeah. So yeah, you can see it's an object. So curly bracket, right? The main thing is curly bracket. Inside, I have a comment which has an array. And this array has inside, we've got objects, right? So think of anything that is an array is multiple things. Think of it this way, multiple things, multiple of same things, right? Comments, multiple of same things, right? Friends, multiple of same things, right? Use arrays. Make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
If I want to define something which has not the same thing, it has many different things, right? Like define as a person, I have configuration, right? Maybe 2 eyes, and not maybe, always 2 eyes. Eyes, hair color, all of these, but there are different things, multiple of different things, right? I would use objects, right? So if you look at it in a profile, I have name, which is John. Profile picture is a completely different thing. Age is a completely different thing, right? So that's why I'm using curly brackets, multiple of different things. But if I have comments, you can see each comment has exactly the same structure, right? That's why I'm using arrays. So this is the kind of a rule you want to follow. Multiple of same things, you want to use arrays. Multiple of different things, you want to use objects. And you can mix and match, right? I think if you follow this rule, it's very instinctive, right? How about this? I'm going to give you another example. This time, let's instead of profile, let's create something else. Give me an example. I'm trying to think what we can create. Let's say you want to create a classroom. Okay, let's create an object called classroom. I will let you decide how you want to approach this. Okay, or school, not a classroom. Let's define a school, right? And then school has what? School has classrooms, has name, classroom, right? Has a principal, right? Or teachers. Principal is always always one person. You know, students, but the students are associated with the individual class, right? So I'm just throwing the list of things. You organize the school in this, you know, school also has location, right? What else? School. And then classroom can have, you know, classroom can have whiteboard, benches, number of benches, let's say, number of chairs. Room number, right? Class number, right? Teachers, they have name, and it's less also age and skill, right? Or subject that they teach. So you can take this example and let's just create similar concept of whatever makes sense. So I want you to explore, I want you to build this by yourself. This will help you kind of clear the idea of how to build this kind of structures. It's very instinctive. Once you start building it, it makes sense, right? If you follow these rules, if something that you say, if you see something says S, plural idea, which means they're all the same usually. If I say classroom, they all classrooms are the same. You may have few things missing here and there, but they all have the same thing. They'll have a board, they have a number of chairs, they have class number, right? Teacher is going to be the same. Yeah, they're going to have name, age, subject. Principal always going to be one, right? Students are going to be also the same, right? So let's create them, and then students will have, let's say, name and rank or something. I don't know, grade, let's say, or GPA. Okay, let's build this. Let me give you about 15 minutes to build this. This will be probably a good exercise for you. And so we are, let's say, 5:04. So let's come back at 5:20, let's say, 16 minutes. Any question before we start? Okay. I'm looking forward to what you guys create. Once you're done, send me a private message and on the Zoom. I'll be back in 10 minutes. Yeah, so for a few more minutes, you don't have to like create so many students or so many teachers, just one or two should be sufficient. Yeah. The idea is to understand the structure and how to structure, but if you do like one or two, it should be sufficient. Make sure you console log it and print it to understand. And feel free to ask any questions if you're, if you have it. If you need more time, I can. All right. You guys need more time? Okay. Yeah, keep going. Give you a few more minutes. Just once you're done, just paste your, no hurry, just paste your response in the chat directly. Yeah. It's important to you think the way you want to structure this, right? There's no wrong or right way. As long as you console log it and it prints that object, you have done your job. Another trick is as you build the object, keep printing it, right? So that you know if you're going in the wrong direction, because once you build the whole object and then you try to figure out what the errors, it will be very hard to do, right? Also, another thing is it will give you something like this here, right? So here I have just a bunch of text, right? Which means it should give you error. So if I console log, if I just comment this out, the error goes away, right? So CodePen will trigger an error here if you are formatting incorrectly. A few of you are already done. A few still are waiting. I'll give you a few more minutes. And again, raise your hand if you have any, if you are stuck somewhere, right? Or something is not working, I can help you. This is important because you're going to use this to represent anything, pretty much all the data that you create. This will be your format, right? To store the data. And so this becomes very important to understand. All right. Raise your hand if you still need help. All right. Most of you are done. Okay. Let's move forward. So great. Yeah, most of you did a pretty good job. So let's do this. Let's build this school, right? Again, there's no right or wrong way of, there's a one way of doing, there are many ways of doing the same thing. But hopefully you all did pretty much similarly, right? So we build a school, always an object, right? Because it doesn't say schools, it says school, right? I know it's a mix of different things. So that's why I use a curly bracket, right? Okay, inside I have a name. I don't know, I'm gonna say Homestead High. Okay, that's the name of the school. Location. I'm just gonna make up some address. Hills Avenue, right? Classrooms. Because it says rooms, it's going to be an array. Okay. I'm not going to write anything more here. I'm just going to keep moving. Then I have teachers. So that's going to be also an array, right? Principal. It's a single person, right? You know, you can have a property or you can have just a name. David, Dave, Shield. I don't know, I'm making stuff up. students. It's going to be an array, right? Okay, so now I'm just going to see if it works first. Console log school. It should not give you any error. Yes, doesn't give you, which means fine. Now let's implement the classroom inside, because the pool, it's going to be pretty much an object inside, right? And inside the object, classrooms, as I said, it's going to have a whiteboard. Let's say one whiteboard, or maybe two sometimes, right? It's got chairs, 30 chairs. Because each room can be different, right? But they have the same properties pretty much. Also, properties could vary, but some classroom have projector, right? Not all classroom have, but again, they are similar in nature, so that's why you always use arrays, right? Class number, let's say 1. And in order to build the same class, I'm just gonna do this and then put here and then just change a few things here. So I get a whole new, class here. Okay. Same thing with the teachers. I'm gonna put here name. I don't know. John Doe. Okay. And age is, I don't know, 30. Subject is math, right? I can have another teacher. Let's copy paste, comma. Then this is Jane Doe. He's 35. And GTH. Let's say programming. All right. Let's format this. It looks nice. And similarly, you go make, students, right? You get the idea. Student will be the same, put curly brackets here, put comma, and again curly brackets, and inside is a similar object goes in here. Now it is possible that, let's say this room has, whiteboard, projector, for example, right? This room doesn't. So you don't really have to have the same property, right? But ultimately, they are similar in nature, right? So yeah, you don't have to have exactly the same property everywhere, but few property can differ, which is fine. But ultimately, we are describing all the classrooms, right? Okay, you know what? Let's just put some students as well. So name is, let's say, Peter. Age is 15. GPA is 3.4. This is, let's say, Jane. Age is 15. GPA is 3.6. All right. So you have your object here. Any questions? See, having built this would kind of give you an idea what it is. If you're just looking at it, it's very hard to see, right? And it's also hard to build if you haven't built it before. But once you do this, you have an idea, okay, this is the structure, you just follow it. That's it, right? You can actually pretty much represent anything in this format, right? Because in the world, you have similar things or not similar things, right? And it's just a mix and match of things. So you can do this for pretty much anything. All right. Now let's go back to our original object that we have created. If you don't have it, I'm just going to paste it. If you have cleaned it up, I'm just going to put it in the chat. So you can copy it and paste it. All right, so we still have half hour. So what we'll do is we'll try to access information from inside, right? How do we remember when we get information from an array? So if I have an array called numbers, right? If I want to get the first item, so how to get information from the array? Just remember that. Get info from array. So you have an array name, right? And then you have a square bracket, and then you pass the index. This is how you can get the information from the array, right? How do you get the information from the object? Just remember that. Get info from the object. So you have an object name, right? And then you pass the key. So for example, if I'm looking at friends, and if I want to get the second friend, which is Martha, I'm going to pass its index, which is 0, 1. So I'm going to pass 1 here, and this should give me this object, right? But if I need within this object, if I need to get the age of Martha, I would pass this object, right? And then pass the key here, right? Which is age, and it will give me 40. So remember this information. If it's an array, you pass the index. If it's an object, you pass the key. That's it. As simple as it gets. Now another thing also, in object, you can either pass it like this, or you can do something like this: object name dot key. You can also use something called dot operator, which I'm gonna show you. So this becomes much easier compared to this. Okay, so let's do this. I want you to get the name of this profile. Let's everyone do that, and then get the name of the profile. How do you get it? From this object, from the profile. That should give you John. Any idea?
Profile.name.
Yep, profile.name. So you can go two different ways. One is if I do console log, I'll do profile. I can do this way, where I have to pass string, right? And if I look at the, let me remove this guy. Okay, and I get John here, right? Right. So that's a one way of doing things, which is profile, and then in the square bracket, I can pass the name, which is a key, right? So this is the key. I'm passing the key because it's an object, and I'm getting the value, right? Or I can do this. I can say profile.name. in that case, you don't have to really pass the double quotes around, right? Okay. Cool. Now try getting the age. Same way, right? Profile dot age. Any property that now you want to get from this object, you just use the dot operator. So I can say start date, it'll give me this, birth date, it'll give me this. Comments is interesting. If I say comments, it will give me the whole array, right? It gives me the whole array. This. It gives me this, which is the value of the comments, right? Which makes sense. So if I say comments, profile.comments, it gives me the whole array. Okay, so now this is actually list of comments, which is this. If I raise this, this is the array that it gets. Because it's an array, if I want to get the second comment, which is my cat is cute, right? I already know this is an array. I want to get the second one, which means the index should be 1, right? Because the first one is index 0, the second one is index 1. Okay, if I did that, I get the second comment, which is this, right? So first I say profile dot comments, which gives me this. And remember the two things. If it's an array, we pass index. If it's an object, you pass the key. So now we have an object. So all I'm going to do is to pass the index. So I'm going to pass the index, right? It gives me the comment. Now, if I want to get the actual comment, because now I got this object. Now I'm just going to pass comment here. So I'm going to say dot comment. When I do that, I get my cat is cute. So by building this kind of a dot, I am getting the value that I need from this object. Now let's get, using this example, let's get second friend's age. Let's get second friend's age. Second friend's age, which should print actually 40, right? Let's try this. Using this example, it's pretty simple. If you see an object, use a key, dot key. If it's an array, square bracket, pass the index. Put it in a private chat once you figure it out. Just follow this example. If I want to get this, the second comment, I'm using this. In this case, I want to get the second friend's age, which is 40. So build me something like this, but this should give me the age. if you understand how I did this, you should be able to easily get the front page. Just trial and error, right? But once you understand that, just do one at a time to see what is printing, right? And then you further add. So this is called chaining, which means I get something, right? And I again apply the next, and then in a single line, I can build this, I can get whatever I want, right? Let me know if you are confused on anything. I know it's a new thing, so but once you, as I said, once you get it, it's pretty straightforward. Just do one at a time, right? So if I do profile dot something, see what's printing, right? Then you apply index, right? And then you see again what's printing. Let me give you a hint. Okay. Yep. And use dot if it's an object. Square bracket if it's an array, right? In order to access it. This way you can differentiate, and that's easier. You can use square bracket as well. But you know, I prefer using dots because that can give me understanding of I'm accessing an object versus I'm accessing an array. All right. Anyone need more time? All right. So let's see how we do this, right? So I need to get this, which means from profile, I need to access friends first. right? So all I have to do is first, let me, it's here. So I'm going to say console log profile dot friends, right? Profile dot friends, and I will run it. It will give me list of friends, which is 3 friends, right? Which is an array. Okay, and I'm looking for the second friend. So on a 0 index, 1 index, right? So, okay, so I'm gonna do is 1 index. Now let's clear this and run again. All right, and I got this object. All I need to do is like dot age, because it's an object, which means I just need to dot. So just don't think too much. Just see, okay, if it's an array, all right, if it's an array, use square bracket. If it's an object, use dot. Now, clear run gives me 40. Okay, so this profile friends age give me 40. If I want to get the picture profile picture, I would say profile first. You can actually read this, right? Profiles, friends, first friends, age. You see that? Profiles, friends, first friends, age. If I want to get the comments, first comment state, I would say profile, comments, first comments, date, right? So it's pretty simple. Console.log profile dot comments, first comments dot date. That's it. Run this, I should get the date, right?
For the first one, it should be 0, not 1.
Oh, first comment, yeah, thank you. First comment, it's all, it's a index 0. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, make sure that first is a 0th index. Second is the first index.
So just to clarify something, with the dot operator or the dot like at the end of something like dot age, dot date,
Yeah,
you said, so that's only possible, that function can only be used for objects?
yes,
Okay, so, okay, I see. Thank
yeah. Because, you know, as I said, both can be accessed using square brackets. So if I want to get the date, I can use this way, but it would look kind of ugly. So I can say profile, then comments, then 0, then date. I can use this as well, but this doesn't tell me. I mean, obviously it tells me that this is a string, which means I'm accessing an object. This is a number, which means I'm accessing from the array. It should give me the same thing, right? As you can see. But this syntax is better because it looks cleaner. Whenever you see a dot, you know you're accessing a property of an object. Whenever you see a square bracket, you know you are accessing an index. So you can actually read this. You can say, give me profile comments, which is an array, because you can see it's a plural, right? And then whenever there's a plural, I need to pass a square bracket and some sort of index to get a specific object out of that array, right? And then I'll pass the date. So you can literally, when you read it, you can say, I'm looking for profiles, friends, first friend's age, profile comments, 0 comments, date, right? If I look at, for example, let's say look at the school here, right? In the school, if I'm looking for, let's say, second teacher's subject, which is programming, right? I can read it like this: school dot teachers first, which is 1, or second, which is 1 in the square bracket, dot subject, right? So it will be like this. It will be school dot teachers, second teacher, which is first index, subject, right? So you can literally read, when you read it, it makes sense to you, what you're trying to do.
Also, so what happens if you want, or how would you just access like an entire, can you access an entire array within that with, I mean, I know it wouldn't have the dot, but is it like kind of similar to access the whole
Yeah,
array?
if you just say teachers, so now you can read. Give me all
Uh-huh.
the teachers in the school. Well, just
Oh,
dot. So yeah.
okay, that
School
makes sense.
dot teachers gives me all the teachers. School dot teachers 0, give me the first teacher.
Uh-huh.
If I say dot name, it gives me the first teacher's name. So by writing this, I'm actually building a story around it, right? So by just reading it, I know what I'm trying to get. I'm getting schools, teachers, first teacher's name, right? If I want to get the student's GPA, like a second student's GPA, then I would do school dot students, right? Second, which means index 1, GPA. This is how actually, so if you look at the Instagram or Facebook, whatever, you would, you would see your profile underneath, you'll have your name and profile, right? It's coming from like this. So it's Facebook stores all the data in this format. Okay, not the school, but this format, right? I mean, they may have different format. I'm just saying, but it's a same structure. It's an object, an array is an object, and all that, right? And then it will say, I want the age. It will say profile.age, which give me the name, name of the profile.name would give me the name of the profile, and it would show the display, right? If I want to list all the friends, right, then it would just say profile.friends would give me all the friends, right? How do I get all the friends? So let me close this one. So we have clean. So what if I want to get all the friends for this profile? Then I already know that I can just say friends equal to profile dot friends. Okay, this gives me all the friends. If I console log this, I would have it. Console.log friends. Okay. I'm just using a name. You can say John's friends, doesn't matter. Right? It's just a variable, but it saves all the friends that John has. So if I run this, it will get all the friends, right? Now, let's say if I want to get all the ages from this list. Remember, we learned about the for loop, right? So because it's friends, which is an array, I can use a for loop. So I can say for let friend of John's friends, right? So this gives me each friend. And if I just simply console log friend, it'll print me each friend. If I run this, I would see each friend separately. So it prints 3 friends. And if I just want their ages, then all I have to do is friend dot age, because I have friend, which is an object. I just have to access the age. Now I have ages, which is 45, 40, and 30, right? So if it's an array, I can go through it and then print, because if I have 1,000 friends, right? I don't want to do 0 age, 1 age, 2 age. I can just use a for loop that prints all the ages. I mean, I don't really need to create John's friend. I can simply just go and put this here, right? Once you can master this, accessing object and creating objects and things like that, half the burden is gone. I mean, just to follow the rules, as I said, square bracket, if you try to access the array element, a dot if you're accessing the property, right? And you can see, if you see words like friends or prof or students, you know it's an array, right? So you can literally build the lingo by just using dot, square bracket, dot, things like that. Okay, any questions? Okay, yeah, so we have only a few minutes left. Feel free to ask the last question. And I'll also post some couple of examples of this in the homework, so you can practice. I'll make it a little bit more complex than this, a little bit deeper, so that you may have to do object array, and things like that. So it's deeply nested. So you may have to, think about it a little bit. But as I say, concept is simple. If you understand the concept, you can actually do it without even looking at the whole thing. It's a language in a way, right? Profile, friends, first friends, age, which means profile dot friends, 1 in the square bracket, and then age, right? It's very simple.
So I was just wondering, so why do we have to say let friend of profile.friends? Like, is that just to simplify what the code is like, or is that because there's like too many dots and it'll confuse the?
No. So the reason, remember, when you iterate through an array, right? So remember, we did this syntax. So let items, right? To key and or something like that, right? And so if I wanna get the, remember in the regular for loop we have let I, right? And then we say I is greater than I equal to 0, and then I greater than 10 or something like that, right? So I are each, because when you do loop, you need to have what you get at the end of every loop, right? So
Oh, I see.
so if I need to create a variable that's going to hold this each value, right? So I could also say let I of items, right? And then if I do console log I, it's the same thing. I is basically each of these items, right? It needs to hold something, right? But I decided to call it items, item of items, right? Which I'm printing each of these items here, right? So that kind of makes sense in that sense, right? So the same thing I did here. So I said, I have a bunch of friends. So when I do the for loop, I'm going to get each friend one at a time, right? So I named it friend. I can name whatever, but I named it friend. So it looks cleaner, friend of friends, right? Which means individual friend. And then I can use that friend to get that whatever I want. So it's just like an I. So you need to create a variable that you will get at each iteration, right? It's similar to like this for, let's say let I equal to 0, I less than, let's say 12, I equal to, let's say I plus 2, right? So then I'll do I, right? So I was a variable that gets printed every time. So it's a variable that changes on every loop, right? So what happens here is that when it iterates to all the friends, it will first get the first friend and store it in this friend, so I can get it, right? Then again, it does it. It goes to a second friend. So first time it will go through this. This will be a friend. It will store it in here, and you can get the age. Then second iteration, it will get this friend, and then last it gets this friend, and it ends, right? So this just a syntax. It's nothing more. You can call whatever. Yeah.
Thank you. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. You can call it I if you want. It doesn't matter. But if you're reading it, it makes more sense to call it friend, because what you're getting is then you have to call I dot age, right? Or you can call it the friend variable, right? Right. Then it's a variable that you created during temporary variable we created. Yeah, hopefully this clarify things for you. I think you can pretty much, using this, you can pretty much get any property from this object, right? And now you can do big things inside JavaScript. So next time we are going to look at something very important, which is called functions. Okay. And the functions are, in a way, when you have a big task, you can, and then they're repeating things inside, you can create this common functions that, so you don't have to repeat things. Okay, so it's very powerful. So we're going to look at that. Yeah, we're getting to a point where you can actually do some complex programming. Okay. Cool. Any last question before we leave? All right. We'll see you next time then.